I'm a bit late to posting this video and everyone's already covered all the cool Pokemon. I wonder if there's a Pokemon that hasn't received as much love. I mean, at least it's cute. Oh god, do not look at those IVs. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing a fun team of Swalot, BUZZWOLE, and Medicham. So the idea behind the team is that Swalot is a decent counter to fairy types, which Medicham and BUZZWOLE are pretty weak to, and because it received Mudshot, it can get to those ice beams pretty quickly, so now it's also an okay counter to flyers. Not the best counter, but a mediocre counter. This team is extremely weak to Gligar, Confusion users, and Frostlass, so I do not recommend you use it. It's the beginning of the season and I'm just using it for fun. Alright, diving into the first battle, we have a Galvantula on the lead, so this is going to be a pretty neutral matchup unless the Galvantula does not have Discharge. So Galvantula goes ahead and throws Lunge at me, which is actually resisted by Swalot's Poison typing. Now my opponent's going to do 2 more Volt Switches, which is only enough for a Cross Poison, and I recognize this so I don't shield because that's resisted as well. And then I'm going to throw Sludge Bomb, and hopefully he doesn't shield. He doesn't, and we take him out. And then I blind swap into Medicham because I wanted to clear the debuff on Swalot, and I was actually hoping that he would stay in this matchup because Medicham actually has a decent matchup versus Skarmory now that Sky Attack was nerfed. So before it used to take 5 Air Slashes to get to it, and now it takes 6. These counters are doing a ton to Skarmory because of its Steel typing, and whoa, what was that? Did I just throw on alignment? What in the name of Ace is this? Come on, this is what noobs do. For those of you who haven't heard of the concept, throwing on alignment basically means that I didn't throw my charged move in the middle of my opponent's fast move. Instead, I threw right as my opponent's fast move animation finished, which means I allowed him to get 3 extra turns because he's running Air Slash, and Air Slash is a 3-turn move. This is really bad practice, and you don't want to be doing this because you're just basically giving your opponent free energy. In a higher level match, this will cost you the game, so don't do what I did. Anyways, my opponent shields my next Ice Punch, and I'm just gonna let this next Sky Attack go. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in with BUZZWOLE and I'm gonna farm down, and those Air Slashes are chunking my BUZZWOLE because BUZZWOLE is double weak to flying. Now my opponent brings in Stunfisk, and basically this is GG's for my opponent. I'm just gonna go straight Power Punch, and they're gonna be starting to do a lot of damage to the Stunfisk. I throw this next Power Punch right as the Stunfisk reaches his next Rock Slide. This Power Punch isn't going to be enough to take him out, but also this Rock Slide is not going to be enough to take us out because we are taking neutral damage from Rock Slide, and we take that win. GG's to my opponent. Moving on to the next match, we have Swalot into Lantern. This is another neutral matchup, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay in and I'm going to chip him with this Sludge Bomb, and then I'm going to swap into Medicham. Remember, we're running ABB. That means we have to swap out to lure out whatever the backline is weak to. So taking that first Surf and swapping immediately into Medicham. Now my opponent's going to be throwing Surfs at me, which is completely fine. Medicham is pretty tanky and can take these pretty easily. It's interesting that my opponent is choosing to stay in this matchup. Eventually he gets into Ice Punch range and I can just throw that and save the rest of my energy for whatever he brings in next. And my opponent brings in Gligar, and I'm wondering why he didn't choose to bring this in earlier, but that's fine for us because we have a ton of energy loaded on Medicham. Of course, my opponent's going to go ahead and shield that. I also have a lot of energy stored on Swalot, so I go for that first Ice Beam, and it goes unshielded, which is amazing. Then my opponent brings in Tropius. So I actually had 2 things in the back that were weak to my opponent's backline. So I had double Fighter, and my opponent had double Flyer. This actually worked out really well that my opponent didn't shield his Gligar, and now I have the Swalot to align with Tropius, and I'm just going to be going for Sludge Bomb because I need 2 moves to take out Tropius anyways. Even though Ice Beam is double super effective, it's not going to be one-shotting Tropius. So going for 2 Sludge Bombs, just barely surviving with very little HP on Swalot and taking out the Tropius and taking that win. We also get a positive set there, although we weren't running the same team for all of the games. Moving on to the next match, On the lead, we see a double, so I'm going to swap immediately into Medicham to draw out the anti-fighter, and in this case the anti-fighter is a Pelipper, which is fine because Pelipper is quite squishy. Also, my opponent didn't swap immediately, giving me a bit of an energy lead. Now I'm just going to go for a straight Ice Punch. My opponent didn't farm up to a Hurricane, so I know I can let that Weather Ball go just fine. I'm going to throw this next Ice Punch and it's going to get his shield. Now I'm okay with letting my Medicham go. It did its job, we got the Pelipper into the yellow and it drew out the flyer. Gonna bring back in Swalot. Again, my opponent doesn't farm up to the Hurricane, so I know that this is Weather Ball and I'm not gonna shield it. I'm gonna farm up as much as I can and throw right before my opponent reaches his next Weather Ball. The Sludge Bomb goes unshielded and now my opponent brings back in double, and I want him to throw his energy on Swalot before I bring in BUZZWOLE. I immediately swap BUZZWOLE and my opponent has Poliwrath in the back, which is perfect for us. The fast move is resisted because the fast move is counter. BUZZWOLE's bug typing is going to be resisting that fighting type move. I will be shielding these Ice Punches, however, and going straight for that Power Up Punch. I did go Lunge at first just to drop his attack because I could. I'm in a comfortable situation and I can do that. Although I think going Power Up Punch is preferable. We counter down the Poliwrath and we have a Lunge stored for the double. The better thing to do here was to throw one counter on double before throwing the Lunge because he was one double kick away from the Body Slam, so I could have easily thrown one more counter there. Remember, maximize energy wherever you can. This is going to be especially important in those higher rank battles, but right now we're just having fun. Swalot had energy stored and I was able to throw a Sludge Bomb on the double, and we take that win. On to the next match where we're met by a double on the lead. Again, going to safe swap into Medicham to draw out the anti-fighter, and in this case, unfortunately, the anti-fighter is Gligar. This is going to be a little bit tricky. Luckily, I have a little bit of an energy lead on Medicham. Gonna throw these Ice Punches, which are double super effective versus the Gligar. This is going to get his shields, and if I reach a second one, it will get his second shield, which it does. And now I have this Gligar that I need to take care of. I have 2 shields for Swalot, and I get kind of greedy here, farming up as much energy as I could. I should have actually just thrown the Ice Beam, but now my opponent is going to throw a dig, and I end up using both my shields. I got baited the first time, and this is where my opponent swaps out and saves the Gligar, and we basically get wrecked by Gligar in the end. So GG's, you can't win them all. Moving on to the next match, we have Swalot into Kommo-o. So this is okay because Swalot has Ice Beam, which is going to be doing super effective to Kommo-o. I go straight for the Ice Beam. I don't know if he's going to shield or not, but he ends up not shielding, so good thing we went for the Ice Beam. Now I'm going to swap in Medicham before he gets a chance to throw a move on Swalot. And remember, because we're running ABB, we have to swap in one of our backline Pokemon to draw out what the backline is weak to. This time it's going to be Azu, which is perfect. This is exactly where we want to see it. We're going to go for the neutral Psychic, and then we're going to bring in Swalot and throw Sludge Bombs at this Azu. I let Azu take out Medicham with the Play Rough, and then I'm going to bring in Swalot and go for the Sludge Bomb. Unfortunately, it's not enough to take him out. Now I'm in a situation where I kind of want to farm him down, so I let the Hydro Pump go. Unfortunately, it's a Hydro Pump and that does a ton of damage to us. I realize that I'm not going to be able to farm him down, and I bring in BUZZWOLE. Unfortunately, he had the hardest counter to BUZZWOLE in the back. He had a Charizard. There was nothing we can do there, so GG's to my opponent. On to the next match, we have Swalot into Blastoise. So Blastoise is a little bit tanky, so what I want to do is I'm going to soften him up with a Sludge Bomb, and then I'm going to swap into my Medicham. So I go for that Sludge Bomb, it goes unshielded. My opponent's going to throw Hydro Cannon before I can swap out. It's okay, I'm okay with it, I'll take it. And now I'm going to swap in Medicham. My opponent is choosing to stay in, however, which could signal that his backline is weak to fighters. He's going for that Hydro Cannon, and now he's going to swap in Toxicroak, and if this Psychic goes unshielded, it will one-shot. And he lets it go. Now he brings in Dragonair, and I can throw these Ice Punches, which are going to be super effective against its Dragon typing. The first one, of course, is going to grab his first shield. I don't think I make it to a second one. I'm going to bring in Swalot now to absorb the energy that this Dragonair has. Swalot is pretty tanky, so I can survive whatever move it's going to throw at me here. Now I can bring in BUZZWOLE, and I'm going to shield the BUZZWOLE, of course, because again, BUZZWOLE is super squishy. I'm going to be able to almost counter down, but my opponent brings in Blastoise. I'm going to go for these power-up punches. After this, the counters are going to be enough to take out the Blastoise, and I'm going to have enough energy for another power-up punch for the Dragonair, and we take that win. GG's to my opponent. On to the final match of this set. We have the most perfect lead we can ask for. We have Swalot into Azumarill. Azu only builds up to an Ice Beam here, so I'm perfectly fine letting that go. Again, Swalot is pretty tanky, and this Ice Beam isn't going to be doing too much to it. Now I can throw these Sludge Bombs, which are going to be super effective versus the Azu. They let the first one go, and I assume they're not going to let the second one go. Let's see if they decide to shield. They do invest a shield. So now what I do is I catch on Medicham because I'm still expecting that they might have a potential flyer in the back, because Azumarill is a water type and a flyer would counter the grass types that the Azumarill is weak to. However, they bring out Lantern, so they're ABA weak to grass, which is very interesting. I'm okay with seeing the Lantern here because Medicham can handle it better than BUZZWOLE. And now my opponent makes a slightly questionable play here. They decide to shield the Ice Punch on Lantern to save their Lantern. I don't really see why they did that. They could have saved a shield for Azu, especially since I have the Swalot and I still have both shields up. So I am going to shield my Swalot, and they're going to bring back an Azu, and I'm going to be able to throw this Sludge Bomb against the Azu. It takes him out, and now my opponent has Venusaur in the back. Frenzy Plant is going to be resisted, and my opponent only built up to the Frenzy Plant, so I know I can no-shield this safely. Lunge is going to be doing neutral to Venusaur, and one of them is going to put my opponents in counter down range. I will have to shield the second Frenzy Plant, however, because even though it's resisted, BUZZWOLE can't survive two. One of them hits like neutral, but we're able to counter down and take that final win. And that was another set with 3 wins. I had a ton of fun using this team. The next few videos I'm going to release are going to be a lot more meta, because while it is fun to run off meta, I was still getting destroyed by people running hardcore meta teams. But that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you guys like my content, please consider subscribing, maybe leaving a like. It helps me out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!